Hi and welcome back to Leon and Emma's recooking and testing series, where we tried the recipes and see how they actually turn out at home and compare to each other. This time we will recook some of the most popular cookie recipes. If you search for the best cookie recipe on YouTube, you will find a ton of recipes which claim to be the best cookie recipe. Today we will start recooking the recipe of three famous cooking and baking channels: Saffitz, Weissmann and Babish. All three recipes have several millions of views. So let's see if the recipes actually taste good or if they are only nice to look at. We will compare three aspects: unique features, flour to butter ratio, and white sugar to brown sugar ratio. Okay, but now let's start with Saffitz recipe. She mentioned the hard and long work to create the perfect chocolate chip cookie and that she is very proud of the recipe. The video is almost 18 minutes long, which is a lot, but she explains every step very thoroughly, which is quite nice. So the special things about her recipe are that she uses milk chocolate and dark chocolate disc and chops the chocolate with the goal to get also very little chocolate pieces. She browns the butter to get butterscotch cookie dough flavor, and she ages the dough for at least 12 hours. The flour to butter ratio is almost 1:1, as well as the brown sugar to white sugar ratio. So let's quickly recook this recipe. She starts by browning the butter on moderate heat while always stirring. When you see big bubbles and you hear it boiling, turn it down to low heat. Claire says to let it go until you see a shade past golden brown. Whatever that means, for us the color is more like golden caramel. Just let it go until all the little whey particles sink to the bottom of the pot and turn into a nice golden brown color. She then puts the butter in a bowl, adds some heavy cream to put back the lid wick or water which was removed during the boiling process, and lets the butter cool down while always stirring so you get a homogeneous mixture. This took quite a while, so we decided to put the butter in the fridge and give it a stir every 5 to 10 minutes. Otherwise you will be in the kitchen for at least 30 minutes whisking the butter. Add equal amounts of white and brown sugar, white for the crispiness and brown for the chewiness. Add 2 whole cold eggs. Add vanilla, flour, baking soda and salt. And then finally fold in the chocolate. Now you can scoop the cookies. We just used a little cup for even cookie balls. The cookie balls spreaded as our dough was very soft due to the huge amount of butter. So we decided to put the balls back in the fridge for about 10 minutes and then reform nice cookie balls. After that, let the balls age for at least 12 hours. We let them age for 24 hours. After the aging process, you can bake the cookies in the oven for about 18 minutes. And here you see the final result. It almost looks like Claire's cookie. I like the consistency. You have a gooey center but still crispy edges. The taste is very sweet. It tastes a lot like caramel and butterscotch, which Claire was aiming for. A little bit like raw cookie dough, but for me it's way too sweet, as you only taste the caramel and it's also too buttery.
So I would agree with Emma. Overall the cookie very much tastes like cookie dough. It's very soft and flowy on the inside. It's overall an extremely good taste, but I would say it's also too sweet in my opinion.
Let's move on with Joshua's recipe. We found 2 cookie recipes. One which is 6 years old and the other one was an update 5 years ago with a cookie hack with almost 3 times more views. So let's use this recipe and recook the cookie. So the special things about Joshua's recipe are that he melts the butter, but he does not brown the butter. He uses an extra egg yolk for more fudginess, and he uses a chopped chocolate bar instead of chocolate chips. And he uses the so-called pan bang method, where he takes the pan and drops it from about 1 inch height 2 to 3 times during the baking process. The butter to flour ratio is lower than in Claire's recipe with 33% of butter. And Joshua uses more brown sugar than white sugar in his recipe. So let's bake the cookies. Start by melting the butter and chopping the chocolate bar. Important note, we do not want it to be too small. We want big pieces of chocolate, bigger than the normal chocolate chip size. Add the brown and the white sugar in a stand mixer. Put in your melted butter and mix at low speed. Add 1 whole egg and 1 egg yolk and increase the speed to medium. Add the vanilla extract. Combine flour, baking soda and salt. Give it a nice whisk like Joshua is doing it and add the flour, baking soda, salt mix. And do not forget to spill some of the flour next to the pot. Fold in the roughly chopped chocolate and let the dough rest in the fridge for about 30 minutes. Then you can size the cookies. Put them in the oven and let them bake for 12 to 15 minutes while using the mentioned pan bang method. The first time after 6 minutes, the next time after 2 minutes after that. And here's the final result. It doesn't look like Joshua's version, but let's try it, we will see. So the consistency is totally different to the consistency of Claire's cookie. I'm not sure if this cookie turned out the way it's supposed to be, but I love the consistency. Not only the edges are crispy, but the total outside. But still the inside is super soft and gooey. I've never seen a consistency like that before. This cookie has more of the typical buttery chocolate chip cookie taste, which I personally like and prefer, but it is still way too sweet.
Joshua's cookie is also very good, even though it doesn't look anything like the original that he shows on his video. The outside has a nice caramelized crisp, while the inside stayed soft and flowy. The taste is good, but it's also way too sweet. I do prefer the cookie dough taste from Claire.
But let's move on to the last cookie, which is the recipe of Babish, who has more than 10 million followers. The cookie is a bit thicker than the one of Claire and Joshua, and Babish cites the recipe back to his grandma. So the special things about Babish recipes are that he has a special way to form the cookies, which is supposed to be the same technique as of Levain Bakery. He also browns the butter, but he lets the browned butter cool down till it's hard again. Not like Claire, who was stirring the browned butter. He adds cinnamon to the dough, no vanilla. The flour to butter ratio is 40% of butter. The white sugar to brown sugar ratio is 1 to 2 like Joshua's recipe. And one little side note, for the amount of flour he uses less eggs than Joshua and Claire, which is why the dough is crispier and the cookie turns out thicker in the end. So let's recook this recipe very quickly. Brown the butter and let it cool down until it is solidified. Ideally you put it in the fridge so that it can cool down. When the butter is solidified, put it in a stand mixer, add the sugars and whip them together for 3 to 4 minutes. Add 2 cold eggs, combine flour and salt, cinnamon and baking soda and add it to the mixture. Add normal but high quality chocolate chip cookies and now form cookie balls and heat them open so that you get this rustic looking cookie. Bake them in the oven for 12 to 17 minutes depending on how raw you like your cookies. And here you see the result. It looks quite similar to Babish's version. Let's see how it tastes. So the cookie is nice to hold. It is very crispy. The inside is a little bit gooey, but more like a cake. The taste is not as good as the other 2 cookies. I think the chocolate is not that good and also the dough is not special. For me, the buttery, warm, homemade cookie taste is totally missing.
Babish cookie is the nicest one to hold, as it's not as greasy as the other ones on the outside, so your fingers will stay clean. It's also on the sweet side, but it's not as sweet as the other 2, as there's a bit of salt in there which you can also taste, which makes it more balanced. However, the dough's taste is not as traditional cookie-like as the other 2, and the dough is rather muffin-like on the inside.
Let's move on to the overall summary and the final rating. So Claire's cookie has crispy edges and a soft gooey center. You have a butterscotchy taste, just like Claire mentioned, and the inside tastes a little bit like raw cookie dough. The caramel taste is overwhelming and too sweet. It's also too buttery, as your fingers are totally covered with butter after touching the cookie. But if you like caramel, this is the perfect cookie for you. The consistency of Joshua's cookie is special, at least the way we recooked it. The entire outer shell is crispy and the inside is super gooey and almost liquid. You can taste the high quality chocolate and the dough tastes more like buttery homemade cookie. Still, the sweetness is overwhelming. The consistency and taste of Babish cookie are not very special. The outside is crispy and the inside gooey, but it reminded me more of a cake. The taste is okay, but nothing special. So in our opinion, Babish takes 3rd place. So for me, Joshua wins. I love the consistency, it is so much fun to eat this cookie. Claire's cookie is also good, but I do not like the caramel taste.
I did enjoy Claire's cookie the most. If you're also into raw cookie dough taste, then this cookie will not disappoint. Joshua's recipe comes in a close second. It's a very special cookie due to its caramelized shell, and maybe it would have taken 1st place with a reduced sugar content. One little but important side note, we did let a second batch of each cookie age for 48 hours and it made a huge difference in every cookie's taste. So our recommendation is to let each cookie, no matter what the recipe says, age for 48 hours in the fridge.
In our next video we will try to combine all special tricks of these 3 recipes. and try to make the ultimate cookie. Let us know which cookie recipe we should try next.